Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of 15 Good Minutes. Coach B here with the guys. LB, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. I was going to hit Charles' line, but since he's here, I'll let him do it.
All right. Well, let me go over to you, Charles. How you doing, buddy?
Wonderfully excellent today.
Wonderfully excellent. There's a shocker. Freddie, what's happening, man?
Much how you guys doing?
Very good. And we got a special guest in the building. Steve, how you doing, man?
Good and yourselves?
Doing good, man. Glad to have you here. I'll tell you in a minute while we got this special guest in the building, because we got a really interesting topic today that is not sports related, but I think it's very poignant. And I'm gonna turn it over to ULB to kick it off because it's your topic. But I wanna tee it up a little bit. So for the audience, LB basically it looked like a video, but it's really more of like a recording in our group chat from a guy named Charlie Munger. And Charlie's the title of this video was "Stop Saving Money After 60." Now, full disclosure, total clickbait, because it's really more than that. I read it like you hit 60, you just stop saving money, which in my mind did not compute. But I followed LB's instructions. I listened to the whole thing, and what he was saying was my interpretation: stop saving to amass wealth at 60 and do these things. So I wanted to bring this group together because one of us isn't anywhere near 60. However, he's an extremely old soul. And if you know anything about Freddie, you know, his retirement plan was put in place years ago. He's somebody who I think does a really good job of living his best life. And I think he's going to be the benefactor, if you will, of all this old ass age that's here for everybody that is not him. And then I wanted a mix. So we have a fully retired person here who has nothing but time on his hands, right? That's LB. We've got two guys that have retired and re-entered the workforce, Charles and Steve. And then you have a guy who is the oldest of the group and is retirement eligible, but will not retire for several reasons. And I want to get the different perspectives on this. So I'm kind of, I'm not using Charlie's title for this. I kind of repositioned it as money management changes we make as we age. And then I'm going to kind of get the different feels from where you guys are. So LB, you saw this first. And, I think it resonated based on, you putting it in the group chat. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about, let me say one more thing about Charlie. When he made this recording, he was 99. Charlie Munger was a partner of, I think it's Warren Buffett, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Right. So, he understands what he's talking about when it comes from a financial management perspective. He's extremely well qualified in this discipline. So, let me turn it over to you, LB. What did you get from the recording, and how does it hit with you?
Well, I think the one thing that there was a bunch of things that resonated with me. One was because I toy with this idea with the prospect all the time of spending my money. Brenda and I worked hard, and we saved, and we invested, we did all those right things, and we've got a pretty good nest egg. And, we used to have this conversation all the time. Brenda and I would have this conversation where I was always about, leaving a legacy for the kids and the grandkids, that kind of stuff, i.e. leaving money. But the more we talked about it, and while Brenda agreed that we should leave them something, she was very adamant in this prospect that we not deny ourselves anything in retirement in lieu of saving money for them. So, okay. So I guess most of you probably know by now, my wife passed away 2 years ago from cancer. So now I'm single with I'll say all this money, all these resources now, and I am spending it. I've taken on Brenda's mantra of let's enjoy this now. But then again, to the point of the video, there's a whole mindset you have to change from saving and worrying about the future, making sure you're going to have enough money left, but still enjoy it as well. So there's a balancing act you have to find, and everybody's sweet spot is going to be different, obviously. But the other thing he talked about that was very important to me is health. Um, you can have all the money in the world, but if your health is jacked, it don't do you no good. I mean, yeah, you can get better care, but you're still gonna, you can't do what you wanted to do because your health is failing.
Right.
So, I've spent, I bought new gym equipment. I've done all these things to try and keep myself healthy. So I'm healthy enough to travel and do all the things that I want to do and spend up this money and not leave it all to my kids. So the biggest thing for me right now is finding that sweet spot where I've worked with my financial advisor, and we've ran all the numbers, all the Monte Carlo simulations and all that stuff to figure out where that spot is for me right now. And so far I live a very comfortable life. I'm not I don't want for anything really. And at this point, I haven't even gotten into my spending the lump sum money that we saved. I'm still living off of rental income and savings and blah blah blah, that kind of stuff. So I might be in a little different spot, but and then one more point, and then I'll let the next person talk. Is the other thing he talked about, which I've been talking to people about doing this, and I haven't wrote a check yet, but I've been thinking about it. Is instead of leaving, a lot of money at the end, start parsing out some of that money now, where I can see it do good while I'm here. I can see
He
the
did
benefits
talk
of
about
that
that. He
money.
really did. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I've just quickly, I've been thinking about helping my daughter out, just as a
Same
financial.
example Charlie used, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've been talking about that, and I haven't done it. I keep, but if I'm going to do it, it's going to happen this year. I want to do it after beginning of the year. But I'm thinking about helping her out just to give her some more breathing room in the immediate future, so she can, maybe enjoy her life a little bit better right now. So those are the main three things I took away from the video.
Yeah, and thanks, man. And before I go to you, Charles, one thing I want to say about LB, and I think it applies to everybody here. I use an analogy with LB that I use with people in January, the people that you see at your gym trying to lose 100 pounds that they've amassed over the last 20 years and then wondering why it doesn't come off. You don't get to a position financially, in my opinion, when you get to your 60s.
Right.
What he just described here is a byproduct of a lifestyle and a plan that both he and Brenda subscribed to decades ago.
30 years ago.
Yes, and I think people, and I've had this conversation with LB, especially with some of my family members, who assume that I'm rich, and I'm not. I just had a different discipline than them. And Charles, you know what I'm talking about here. So, I want to make sure we set the table. We didn't just fall off a truck and now have excess capital here. The core of this conversation is rooted in the fact that we all had, I think, really good financial disciplines and things available to us as we come along. Now, with that, Charles, in your case, you retired at the earliest age of anyone, from the military and immediately went into the workforce. Why and what changes have you started to make now that you're in your 60s?
Well, first, and I loved everything that Charlie had said in that video. In the video, uh, I I actually all I knew about is to save. That's all I knew about when I was young, right? And then I got in the military and I started meeting other people, right, that actually told me about investing, 401ks, right, accumulating assets, right? And then I started saving, right? And then I was in the military and I was like, I got to a point that, hey, what am I going to do here? Am I going to stay in or am I going to get out, right? And I started thinking about my long-term plan. Hey, I can retire, right? Before I'm 40, right? And then turn around and go back into the workforce and then build up for retirement again and have a really good nest egg whenever I decided to retire. Right. Unfortunately, I got divorced. I had to actually start all over in my 40s because part of my divorce when I got divorced in the 40s is I had to give up a lot of my of savings that I saved. Right. And so and a lot of things that I accumulated. And so but now I'm in my 60s and now I'm at the point of, what am I going to do? right? So I had to kind of redo my plan, right? And my plan was basically assets, still do save for retirement, and then all, uh, ex cash that, retirements that I didn't thinking of when in my 40s, then thinking of in my 50s and 60s. And now I'm at the point of basically, hey, I'm probably going to retire here in the next 1 or 2 years, and I'm going to enjoy myself. That's the one thing I want. That's the one thing I hadn't done as I've been working. I didn't take a lot of vacation, and Rusty know this, right? I don't take a lot of vacations. I don't go a lot of places, and that's the one thing that I'm going to start. I'm starting enjoying the money now that I have accumulated. I'm going to start enjoying that, and I have no plans of leaving anything to my kids. I have no plans of doing it. Now, it may end up that I may end up doing it because of some of the assets that I've
Sure.
obtained and stuff like that, right? But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to try. I'm not trying to leave any money because unlike I didn't wait until my 60s. I have been helping my kids along all the way until now, right? And all my kids, well, you know, 4 to 5 of my kids are pretty successful just because I have helped them. I have helped them, and so I'm not. So I'm not going to feel bad if I don't leave them. I don't leave them anything, right? So, but yes, my goal is to start enjoying it because now I'm finally kind of somewhat healthy,
Mhm.
right? And I want to start enjoying the money that I have saved so that I can enjoy going places, seeing places. I'm gonna do the LB.
That's a tough mountain to climb right
You
there,
gonna buy a
bro.
I
Corvette?
probably won't do it like him, right?
Go get a Corvette, Charles. Come on, man.
But it's my dream. It's my dream.
Well, and I think too, I think the first, you used to talk a really good game, Charles, but I think the first sign that I saw of that was last year when you literally went to Thailand to play golf. And for no other reason than to go there because that's always been on your bucket list. And I thought that was a really good move on your part because you were always, as long as I've known you, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off, putting it off. So I'm glad to see you doing that. Freddie, I'm going to come over to you because you and I have talked about this for a while, and you've had a very specific plan for early retirement, but at the same time, for someone as young as you, I really think that you're getting the most out of life, I mean, so those of you that don't know, Freddie only flies first class. No matter where he go, he can be going state next door. It's going to be first class. I want to say Hyatt Regency. I know he's in the Hyatt ecosystem there. And I think it's really a cool thing to see someone who still works. He's a senior official with the U.S. government, but finding the balance between planning for retirement and still living your best life. So, not being in your 60s, how does your current, the way that you live your life map to when you want to get to that early retirement?
Well, first of all, I think with this topic I think this is more than just a one episode tape. It's very, very, very broad, very vast, very robust, right? Um, to your earlier point when you say I'm an old soul, I don't necessarily look at it as being old soul. I just look at it from, you know, if I'm trying, I can't learn something from other people that's 45 talking to to be at 65 talking to 45-year olds, right? I can't learn it. That's just common sense. Right? I can't talk to a 45-year-old about where I'm going to be at 65. I bought my first Maserati based off of you. And our conversation, and this is what it was, but that's neither here nor there. But I also think about it from a standpoint of I didn't we didn't grow up poor. We grew up poor. Oh, straight up. Oh, right. And so just watching some of the things that how I grew up, I knew that wasn't how I wanted to be at 65. So therefore, you start and let me be honest. At first, when LB posted the video, I wasn't gonna even watch it. I actually watched it probably like within the last hour, and I because I didn't want to get on and say, "Hey, I didn't watch it," right? But because I will say that. But I got on and I watched it, and it was very insightful. And when I actually thought about it, a lot of the things that he was talking about are things that I'm doing right now,
Yeah.
right? Which is one of the biggest takeaways that I took from it was where you are in life when you hear this message, right? Like, because if you're 60 and you're just now hearing this for the first time, you got more years behind you than you do in front of you, which is
100%.
basically what he was saying,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so when I look at it as far as retirement, and travel and stuff like that, those are things that I was doing all along. When you say retirement, me, I'm 45. I'll be 46 in July. I'm planning on retiring at 56, and I'm done. Right? If I work after that, that'll be only because I want to.
Yeah.
It's my wife and I, and we don't have any children at the moment. However, so 56, that'll be great. But if there's a little crumb snatcher that pops up, then we'll adjust accordingly, right? We will adjust accordingly, but college is already secure and taken care of.
Yeah, and that's you make a couple good points, and I think and kind of reiterate what LB said. One about the health, and then two about everybody's at a different station in life when they, to your point, when you heard Charlie's message, and you mentioned where you want to be in your mid 50s, and that's where I think Steve helps out. Steve retired um, early mid 50s and went straight into the workforce. And in your case, Steve, you did that. It was a conscious decision. And you're the only one that I'm aware of right now that, you have you got a child going to Penn State. You know what I mean? So when I look at when I look at a situation of someone who's retired from law enforcement, you've back in the workforce, how does it change your original plan? Or was this always your original plan to retire as early as you did, go to work full time? And then do you have a target time, kind of like Freddie was talking about, where you would be totally retired?
I didn't get married until I was 34. My target plan was to retire at 56, at which time I did retire at 56.
Can y'all hear him?
I
I
can.
can't. He's very
Okay.
low.
Get,
There
get
you go.
close
Yeah,
Oh,
to
I
no.
got
the
you.
mic.
Yeah, you sound like
Yeah.
Barry White, but I can hear him.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
So my target age, I plan on doing 30 years, ended up doing 33 years on MPD. And I had my oldest daughter came out of Pace University. My kids are born 4 years apart. So my wife and I agreed that we would take care of all of their undergrad and their private schools their whole lives. So my kids have been in private schools their whole entire lives. And they will come out of college with no debt. And we didn't borrow any money. We paid for it the whole time.
Yeah.
So my savings was different. I put everything I could into them. Not saying anybody else didn't, but um, one thing I see right now, this will be another topic. I mean, another show. Because I'm openly honest. I can honestly say that um, I had a house that was paid for, and I bought this house. I didn't need this. So anyone who's listening, you don't have to go out and buy this big old freaking mansion and to live a comfortable life. So, that's one thing about buying more than what you really need, you know. Um, I will always I never will take back. I'm happy my children, you all met my children. A couple of you have met my kids, but I'm very happy the way they turned out and they're still flourishing, they're still doing good. They have goals and I've had no issues with them. No drugs, no alcohol, they're respectful, no issues whatsoever. So that pays me back big time for the days when I was out there working, out there in the rain, outside in the elements. They're paying me back. So I can honestly say I love both of them and they're doing good.
Two things that I'm seeing is one, we shouldn't have to apologize for any stage that you're in right now. And, to your point, Steve, you do what you have to do, you know what I mean? And it should be because, you worked to get where you are. Going back to a point that you made, Freddie, when I'm watching this, I'm saying the same thing. The advice is coming from a 99-year-old, guy who's a millionaire. he's raised, he's a rich white guy. I mean, that's all it is. So there's going to be some contrast in the way, that people were raised. I was not raised that way. And like Charles, I came from an environment where nobody in my family saved diddly. I saw nothing. So my whole saving strategy was built on fear. 100%. Fear
Mhm.
of I can't do that when I'm an adult. Something's wrong if you're not better off than your parents, in my opinion, because they had so much more shit to go through than we did, all kinds of things. The job opportunities that are here, we're supposed to avail ourselves of them. Consequently, I use that same platform to say I don't have a lot of sympathy for those that don't do those things for themselves that they should to get here. And I know I'm talking about a lot of my own family members, but you have to
Everybody don't
do
mind you.
yes, you have to do something to get something. And while I took the position that Charlie has no idea what it was like being born and raised in Southeast Washington, D.C., and the things that go along with that. But when the opportunity came, at least in my case, to get out and do something, I did, and I didn't look back. And I've said this, a lot when I talk about not being apologetic for whatever your status is. No is a complete sentence, and I have people who ask me for money, and I just say no,
Mhm.
period. I have others who will ask, and I'll give it to them. Here's my thing: I don't loan because it's not coming back. If you
Right.
know my family, it ain't coming back. So you can't look at it like, oh, when am I going to get it back? It's not happening.
Mhm.
But it's a personal decision, and I get to do it to the level that I want to do it or not do it. I think the other message that we didn't talk a lot about here that Charlie stressed was, and LB, you alluded to it a little bit when you were talking about, what you're going to do for your daughter. You need to do what you're going to do for you like now. This is the point that you really can enjoy it. We're having this conversation with the majority of us, the three of us are in our 60s. 10 years is not far away. We're in our 70s. You
Right.
understand? So
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you can't do things, but I guarantee you, you won't be able to do things then at the level you can
Man,
today. And
exactly.
so LB, you mentioned, health, and it's a concern for everybody. But I would also say when you look at health, don't forget the cognitive stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Do things that are going to one make you happy, but two sort of kind of challenge you. You know what I mean? With the people that you hang around or the hobbies that you decide to take up. We all know people who retire, go home, sit down,
And
and die
die. Yep.
and die because they,
Mhm.
they don't have an activity.
Yep.
They sat on all that money, and the money ends up going to whoever, but it's not
Mhm.
going to be, used probably in the way that that person said. So for me, I save. My wife's retired. I save to continue the lifestyle that I really want to have.
Mhm.
Whether that's in my hobbies, whether it's that with my friends, whether it's me going to, the amount of money I spend on sports tickets is insane.
Those cameras
Whatever
behind you over your right shoulder.
wait, it's not the camera gear. But you have to do that. I mean, you think about, to your point, Steve, about, being out in the elements and working. When I was in the military, I had to work part-time while in the military because I'm stationed in places where that money wasn't enough. You know what
Right.
I mean? So I think if there's a message to take away from what Charlie is saying is don't get so wrapped up in savings that you do it to your last day and
Right.
then leave it to someone else to decide
Mhm.
where it goes. Do something today or take the Charles plan and make the strategies so that when you do check out of here, there's only $13 in the account.
Mhm.
That either one of those is a win.
Mhm.
And like you say, Freddie, um, I'm I am more cognizant now that there are fewer days in front of me
Oh yeah.
than behind me. I'm extremely, it's not a point in the week that I don't remind myself of that. And I think the other thing you have to keep in mind for those of you that are in the age group of LB and me and Charles, you will find that when you get to this age, your circle of friends will get smaller,
Yep.
and that is okay. You
Mhm.
need to be around like-minded people that understand this because if you wasting time on trivial shit or and trivial people who aren't making you better, your days are numbered.
Yep.
Freddie talked about, the type of day trading and stuff. He can do that. He's 45. I can't day trade nothing because I can't afford to lose anything. I'm going to be 67 in a month. So, look at where you are in your station. And if you haven't, taken the action that you want to get there, there's nothing that says you can't start today. You know what I mean? And you can look at this fine panel of folks and everybody and where they've gotten, and all of us have a different situation. And it's something that I hope others can benefit from. I tried to benefit, from my seniors
Well,
also.
Rusty, another thing is that, there's different ways of doing this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? Different ways of doing to get where you're at, where you can be comfortable when you get to a certain age. And and it's just not just one set way,
Yeah.
right? Like for myself, I had to start over in my 40s, right? After I had started in my 20s to start saving a lot, right? So it's different ways to actually, and my plan had to change in my,
Sure.
and how I was going to approach, the second half part of my life,
Yeah.
right? So it's different ways of doing it. Now, granted, the easy way to do it is the way Charlie did it, the way LB did it. That's the easy way to do it, right? But if but also there's other ways to do it. And you know what? And I'm the only thing I'm not against what Charlie said. I think you can still save, right? But don't save to the point of
That you
that
neglect
That's
yourself. Yeah.
that
right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
it's you're going to sacrifice,
Not doing something.
not doing nothing, right? Like he said, going out your way to save $5, right, or
He
something
did
like
talk
that.
about that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
do
like,
that. I still do that though. So.
No,
I'm just
I actually don't. Not to cut you off, Charles, but it was a couple weeks ago. I was actually my cleaning lady was coming, and I needed to go to the ATM to get money out to pay her. And I literally went to four ATMs within less than a 7 mile radius.
But it's all good points, right? I'm just saying is that basically, as everybody has said, it's this is really a topic. We can go on about this and how you're going to do it. But my only thing is that basically it's different ways to do it. But the main thing is to do it.
Do something. Yeah.
If I could, just one point that I think should be made is that to what y'all says, there is, different ways to skin a cat. But the key for everybody is to run your numbers, run your situation, figure out what you need to do to get to where you
For
want to
you.
be
Yes.
when you retire. There's a bazillion ways to get to that point, but you got to know what that point is in order to get there. So you got to run your numbers. You got to understand what your real living expenses are. Real living expenses, not what you think you're going to need, but what you actually. I had to do that myself when I first retired because honestly, I had no idea how much money I spent. I just assumed I spent X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
Turns out I didn't. It's because and I was working, I got paid, I spent it.
Right.
I got paid, I spent it. So I just assumed that's how much money I really needed. And I didn't need half of that much money, as much money. And then once you retire, you're not working, so you're not driving it. Well, I still drive a lot, but driving to work every day, you're not buying work clothes, you're not eating lunch out every day at the office. All those little things add up. So run your real numbers and be as honest. You have to be honest with yourself how much you're really spending. Then you'll know how much you actually really, really need in retirement, and you can figure that out from there.
I think that's spot on advice. And the only thing I would add to that is you could end up in a situation where you don't have to retire. I'm not retiring because, and don't nobody tell anybody this, but they still pay me to do what I do. It's like, are you kidding me? So I'm here until they figure out that, they could do a better job with a much younger person. And so to LB's point, that's your race, right? Don't feel like you have to retire because your neighbor retired, or don't feel like you have to keep working if that job is kicking your ass and you don't like it anymore. Find out what works for you and do the thing. Because the minute this starts getting hard here, okay, I'm done. I'm out. I'm out. You know what I mean? And you have to have that kind of flexibility, I think, in order to in order to be successful. So to your point, great topic. We're almost out of time. I do appreciate everybody joining, especially you, Steve. Welcome, welcome. Always appreciate your point of view.
We need to bring this back again.
Welcome to our humble abode, man.
I got 90 seconds. I'm gonna see if somebody got something to say. LB,
I
you
got something to say,
man?
I got to say, where was
Yeah.
Freddie at that night, that late? He couldn't get no money where he needed cash.
What's that?
Where was Freddie that night, out that late, needing cash? Don't answer.
No. You know why? Because see, I remember where I remember. I remember now where you were one of them Commanders fans. I was like, I know
You
this.
knew it was coming back, Freddie.
But I'm gonna let you slide. No, I literally, I was at the car dealership. There was something I needed to get done on my car, and I was at the dealership for like 6 hours, and they finished my car at like 4:45, close to 5. And then I'm driving home in rush hour traffic in Dallas, right? And so then by that time, that's why I was at the typically I'm in by 6. You're right.
We out, guys. Thanks for everything. See you next week.
All right, y'all.
Later.